third hour of our New York City to Boston BoltBus trip in this very comfortable, spacious seat that I'm in right now. It's not a full bus, so I get both seats to myself. Have had a chance to meet and talk to and listen to some of the passengers who are sharing this trip with us, some of whom joined when we made a quick stop in Connecticut. Others who got on board with us when we left in New York. We're a couple of hours away from Boston, where we're inviting everyone who would like to join us this evening. We're going to be at a brewery, which seems to be a theme or a trend in the campaign so far. Having just done a number of brewery events in the Carolinas. And what is the name?
7:30 at Backlash.
Backlash beer at 7:30 this evening. Everyone's invited. Democrats, Republicans, independents, non-voters, curious people who just want to come out and see what's going on, or you are just thirsty and want to have a beer. We want to see you at Backlash, and you are very welcome to join us. We'd love to have you out, and we'll just have a conversation about the future of this country, and want to bring everyone in this country who's interested into the conversation. Before that, we're going to be at Tufts, so we're looking forward to seeing the students, any of the faculty or staff at Tufts as well, and excited for that conversation too. We are very much right now thinking about our friends in South Carolina and in North Carolina. We've been reaching out over the last couple of days to folks that we met along the way, from Marvin Pendarvis, who's the amazing state rep, who's one of the first to welcome us to South Carolina, to our own team on the ground, just to make sure that they're safe and that they are all right. And we are monitoring developments over the course of the day, but we just want to let everyone out there know that we're thinking about you right now. We are with you and want to do anything that we can to help. And so for our team, our friends, our supporters, for the people of North and South Carolina, just know that we are with you and thinking about you right now. And we'll continue to be there, and certainly look forward to coming back. We were just in South Carolina and North Carolina, as well as Virginia last week. Really wonderful visit. I'm very grateful to everyone who helped to make that visit a success. I thought what we'd do, since we have a little bit of time, and someone is kindly doing the driving for us, and we're on this bus, is I would love to take your questions, listen to your comments, hear your ideas, maybe have a BoltBus town hall as we make our way to Boston. So Cynthia, who's sitting in the seat in front of me, is reading the live stream, and she may toss some of these questions or comments over, and then I'll just do my best to respond.
Got a couple of comments talking about that we thought you did a really good job with the climate.
There was a climate town hall last night on CNN, and we took the stage at 10:40. It was a very precise, tightly organized operation. They had 10 candidates that they had to get in over the course of this hours-long town hall. So our thanks to CNN, and really our thanks to everybody who watches CNN, who forced CNN to do this. I don't think they're doing this simply out of the kindness of their hearts. I think they are responding to demand from their customers, their viewers, and I think and I hope it was good for them. I know that at one point that CNN town hall was a top trending issue on Twitter, so maybe that goes to show other networks and others in this country that not only is it the right thing to do to talk about climate change so that we act on climate change before it's too late, it might also be something that is captivating and brings in our fellow Americans, maybe even good for your business. So, and also our gratitude to the other candidates who participated and shared their vision and their ideas, and everyone who asked these terrific, great, really tough questions last night. Really appreciate that, and to each of you who are watching us and sending us encouragement along the way.
So if you guys want, shoot your question over. I know a lot of just really positive, say no watching, come on out to the community, but if you have a question, go ahead and type it in there and I will read it to Beto. So,
is that right? They ask the question,
yeah.
it pops up on your screen,
and then I'll
and then
forward it to
you
you.
send it to me.
It's
Okay.
an effort, and then Amy
it's
holding the camera.
a team effort.
It's a team effort.
I kind of feel like I'm talking in a church or a library because there are other passengers here. They are reading or taking a nap or doing their own thing. So I want to be respectful, but I also want to make sure that I have a chance to talk to and hear back from all of you. Here, let me take a look at the feed.
Somebody said that inviting folks out to do phone banking on your birthday, which is coming up.
So I'm seeing Crystalia is phone banking and wants to know who's going to be phone banking on 9/26, very special day in the O'Rourke household. So thank you, Crystalia, for doing that. Great. Somebody's encouraging more comments. Sparkle says, "Hey there, hey Sparkle." I'm glad you're out there. I love that. Planes, trains, and automobiles and buses. Our campaign just posted that. Did you ever see that movie with John Candy?
Is that when Danny DeVito?
I don't know. I think it's. Isn't that Steve Martin? And John Candy says, "Where's your hands?" And he says, "It's between the pillows." You don't remember that?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Save that for another time. Wendy, thank you for the great comments. Brandy says, "Beto!" exclamation. Brandy! Exclamation. Are you coming to upstate New York? Not this visit, but we would love to do that before long. Right now, we're on our way to Boston. Then tomorrow we'll be in New Hampshire. Actually, we're going to be at Keene State tomorrow evening, I believe, at 5:30.
I can look it up real quick. I think it's 7:30, but I'll check. I'm not sure.
It'll be on Facebook, and you can look it up and RSVP. You don't have to RSVP to come. It's our second time at Keene State. Looking forward to seeing everybody again, hearing from everyone again, and answering everyone's questions and hearing their suggestions and ideas. 6:15.
Just 6.
6.
5:30.
5:30. Didn't I say 5:30?
You did.
At the outset?
Yeah, get there at 5:30.
So I was right. Sam Rodarte, who we got a chance to work with when I was a member of Congress, is watching. Sam, no judgment that Sam should be working instead of watching this. He may take this may be part of his job,
Right.
or he may just want to be able to say hi, or he may have this on in the corner of his screen.
Yeah. You know what? Somebody was asking.
Hey, Sam.
And they used to get notifications when we would live stream, and they're not getting them as much anymore. So, anyways, that was just something that somebody.
Why do you think that is?
Because we don't do enough. We got to do more of the live streams. I get a lot of requests from people that are my Facebook friends, or just people that tell me, "Hey, we enjoyed the live streams. Want you to do more of them."
So we reading a comment now from Chris in Chicago. He says he's in between classes right now, but it's a tough day for him because a friend of his just passed away. So Chris, we are sorry to hear that, and are going to be thinking about you, and know that you're doing so much, not just on this and for this campaign, but so much for the country. And we're sorry that you're going through this right now, and thank you for sharing that. So everyone watching, please send your love and your strength over to Chris right now, and to the family of his friend who's just passed away. Crystalia, who was trying to organize the phone bank on 9/26, says or asks your thoughts on water conservation. And it's interesting. We in El Paso are dependent on the underground aquifer and the Rio Grande River for all of our water, for drinking water, for water for industrial uses, to water your lawns or take a shower. And we share that water with the people of Las Cruces, New Mexico. We share that water with the people of Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua. So there are about 3 million people in the Chihuahuan Desert, in this narrow river valley in between the Franklin Mountains and Juarez Mountains, part of the Rocky Mountain chain. And, it's obviously an incredibly important resource. And so I'm really proud of the fact that El Paso, years ago, helped to take the lead nationally on water conservation programs. So the El Paso Water Utilities, for example, would incentivize ratepayers, customers, to use less water, would provide rebates if you were to purchase a low-flow shower head or a low-volume toilet to help conserve water, had a mandate that you were only allowed to water your lawn on certain days of the week. And we saw total water consumption in El Paso plummet, even though the population continued to climb. So we were able to do that without in any way significantly compromising our quality of life. Just a lot more thoughtful, a lot more resourceful, and ended up as a community and in our individual households saving a lot of money in the process. So I think that makes a ton of sense, and there are a number of communities like El Paso that have pioneered on this. Let's take their example and apply that more broadly across the country. Really important resource, and want to make sure that we have it for future generations.
Somebody had said that they really appreciated you bringing up Cashmere Gardens yesterday.
Yeah. To Keith Downey, all of our friends, Ramona, Tolliver, the folks that we had a chance to meet in Cashmere Gardens over many visits in 2017 and 2018, and we hope to see you again soon in 2019. I want to say thank you for everything that you taught me, everything that you shared with me, some of which I reflected back last night in the Climate Town Hall on CNN, talking about a community like Cashmere Gardens that's been hit 3 times in the last 5 years by 500-year level storms, including Harvey, which dumped 58 inches of rain, which is the landfall record in recorded history in North America, and how many of the homeowners in Cashmere Gardens who've worked a lifetime to build their homes or buy their homes and to build up the equity that they can pass on to their kids were really caught in a position where they were forced to sell those homes for pennies on the dollar. So talking about restructuring FEMA to make sure that those families are made whole again, that we also invest in a stormwater infrastructure to mitigate the impact of future storms, because 3 500-year floods in just the last 5 years, scientists tell us floods like those are going to become ever more frequent, ever more devastating, ever more likely, in other words. And so let's prepare for that and make those investments. And in our climate plan, we have what is known as a pre-disaster mitigation grant that communities like Cashmere Gardens or Houston, Texas, or Charleston, South Carolina, or any community that's on the front lines of climate change would be able to access and fortify themselves to ensure that their communities are more resilient in the face of a changing climate. But the big picture, of course, is to reduce the rate at which we warm and to do everything we can to stop this planet from cooking another 0.5 degree Celsius. We've already warmed 1 degree Celsius since the Industrial Revolution. If we get to 1.5 cumulative, after that, the scientists tell us it is off the tracks. We've then triggered something, set something in motion that we can never roll back or stop, and the brunt of the consequences will be borne not by those of us alive today, but by our kids, our grandkids, and the generations that follow. Someone, and I can't remember if it's Winston Churchill or another great statesman or stateswoman from years past, said that the politician thinks about the next election. The statesman or the stateswoman thinks about the next generation. I think this is a time for us to think about that next generation and to do the right thing while we still have time. Free ourselves from a dependence on fossil fuels, ensure that rural communities and farmers and ranchers and growers and producers are paid for the environmental services that they want to provide. The most obvious example is planting cover crop that pulls more carbon out of the air, sequesters more of it in the soil, using no-till or precision-till farming to keep more of that carbon there in the first place. An incentive for greater conservation and conservation easements and reforestation, another way, again, to draw more of that carbon out of the atmosphere. And then ensuring that we use our power to convene the other countries of the planet to take a global leadership role to ensure all of us are doing our part. I think the United States contributes roughly 16% of the problem with greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. So even if all of us were to do everything we could, if we were able to flick a switch today in the United States and stop emitting greenhouse gas from this country, we would still have a challenge with the rest of the world. So let's set the example. Let's establish some moral authority and standing on this issue, and then let's help other countries to do their part as well. So thanks for the shout out for Cashmere.
Mike just said he donated $100 to the campaign.
Mike, thank you. We are putting it to good use on this BoltBus, making sure that we efficiently and effectively get us from point A to point B. Today it's New York City to Boston, and then also have a chance to meet some of the folks with whom we are traveling that we may not have met if we were all in the Dodge Grand Caravan that we took from South Carolina up through Virginia, or if we were on an airplane. So we're grateful for your contribution. We will make the most of it. Anyone who would like to join Mike can go to BetoO'Rourke.com. Find out more about why I'm running, my position on the policies that you care most about. Sign up to volunteer and make phone calls or knock on doors, or pitch in 10, 15, or like Mike, $100 if you are so generous, to make sure that we have the resources to run this campaign. So thank you, Mike.
So Christy wants to know, what book are you reading right now on the bus? Or what music are you listening to?
Christy, it's funny that you ask. Somebody gave me this book. We were at an event in New York the other night, and they actually gave me 3 books. I don't know if you have the other 2.
I do.
So we were waiting for the bus. We were in line early to make sure that we got a seat, although it turned out not to be a problem because the bus is, at least when we left, only half full. But this is a new Bill McKibben book, and I'm about 21 pages into it. So far, really well written. It's on the issue of human civilization, climate change, the pivotal, defining, decisive moment that we're in right now, and how we meet that challenge. That's at least my impression from the first 20 pages. Then I was also given This Is an Uprising, which, if I can finish this book, I'll start this one. And then This Is Not a Drill, an Extinction Rebellion handbook, and I haven't even cracked it open. Some pictures in here to illustrate. So thank you to Anne, who passed those books on to us. And this is not unusual as we travel. Folks who have read something that's changed their perspective or changed their lives, they want to make sure that I'm reading it as well. And don't have time to read literally everything, but I can at least crack some of these open and get some of that. And it makes me better, and I hope smarter as a candidate. And if I'm in a position to serve this country as president, that all informs the decisions that I'll make. So grateful for that.
Somebody's asking, have you met anybody interesting or anybody on the bus at all?
Yeah, I've met some interesting people on the bus. Met a gentleman from Northern California who was a baseball player, and we were talking about he played college baseball, excelled at it. I was telling him about my 3 kids who have all played baseball. Ulysses, who's 12, Molly, who's 11, Henry, who's 8. And I asked him, did your dad force you to play? Did you want to play? How did you make sure that you didn't burn out? I worry that one of my kids is, on the verge of burning out when it comes to baseball. And he shared with me just what it was like to grow up with his dad, who was also a baseball player, how there wasn't a lot of pressure, but it was something around which they bonded, and it was just something that they enjoyed being able to do together. And he was talking about his dad, despite a very high pressure job where he's in demand, making time to go to all of his baseball games and tournaments, which makes me really want to be at my kids' baseball games, basketball games, and cross-country meets. By the way, and I don't know if I should say this, but Ulysses yesterday for Wiggs Middle School won first place in his cross-country meet. And I know that is a sin to be proud and to brag, but I cannot help it because my sister Charlotte, his Tia, was at the cross-country meet and sent me a video, and then I got a chance to call him on FaceTime last night and congratulate him. So super proud of him and want to be back for more of those. So anyhow, meeting this gentleman, hearing about his time growing up and that bond that he had with his dad, makes me think about my own dad, makes me think about my own kids. So that was a really interesting conversation. There is a young woman a few seats up who I believe is originally from South Carolina, works for I think it's a dance company in Boston. we had a conversation about some of the issues that she's concerned about. She told me that she liked the position that I've taken when it comes to gun violence in this country and some of the steps that we need to take to save more lives. So we had a good conversation on that issue. Earlier had a conversation about immigration policy. So really grateful for those who've taken the time to introduce themselves to me, or who were gracious enough when I introduced myself to them to talk with me for a little bit. So those have been some of the interesting conversations today.
So many people are donating. Chris, Gail, Kate, Tim, they're all, sorry,
Okay.
I probably couldn't
We'll do
read
this.
that.
This is like a KTEP pledge drive. So we want to thank Chris, Kate, Tim.
Gayla, Chris. Yeah, sorry.
You see this? Can anybody make this out?
Don't judge me, Beto. I'm on the train. My writing is
You're
so
on the
bad.
bus.
Yeah, bus. Yeah, no, it's not great.
So thank you, everyone. Everyone who's going to BetoO'Rourke.com and kicking in $5, $10, $15 makes a huge difference. It obviously is the money that we need to run this campaign, to literally be on the road right now, to purchase the tickets for the bus that we're on. It also pays for our organizers, supports our volunteers, all those who are knocking on doors, making phone calls. And it's also just a great show of support and encouragement, a shot in the arm. And so we are very grateful, and we'll continue to try to read off the names as people tell us that they've made donations.
So Susie is saying if you could talk a little bit more about your policy on no packs and what that means and how that came about.
Yeah. Susie, thanks for the question. So you're asking about political action committees or PACs. We don't take a single dime from a single political action committee, from a corporation, from a special interest, from a lobbyist. We want this to be driven by the people of this country. And we do this because we understand that our democracy, our institutions, our Congress have all become corrupted, compromised by that PAC money, that big money that comes in and purchases not just access, for the corporation or the person behind that PAC to be able to talk to that lawmaker, not just influence, to influence the way that they vote or the legislation they write, but very often now the outcomes, the end result that otherwise would be inexplicable. Why do we pay the highest prices for prescription medication on the planet, though the U.S. taxpayer invested in the development of those medications through their research and development, their clinical trials, purchased them for Medicare, Medicaid, VA, TRICARE beneficiaries? Well, when you follow the money and see how pharmaceutical corporations have been able to buy that access, not only can you explain that, you can explain how we had more than 70,000 overdose deaths last year in this country, the majority of them from opioids. And really, to this point, opioid manufacturers and marketers have had functional immunity from any of the consequences of their practices, though they marketed and sold these opioids knowing that there were health risks connected to them. They didn't share that with prescribers and doctors. And tragically, most of those who overdosed, including those who buy opioids on the street, began with a legally prescribed opioid medication. And there's got to be some accountability for that. It's hard to get that when those manufacturers and pharmaceutical corporations have been able to purchase the immunity or impunity with which they act. So not accepting that PAC money and seeking to change our laws so that no federal office holder or candidate for federal office can take PAC money is an important step in getting our democracy back to this country and ensuring that medications are affordable, ending the opioid crisis, being able to stand up to the NRA, ensuring that our priorities, whether it's immigration or confronting climate change or an economy that really works for everyone, like having a minimum wage that's a living wage, that we actually accomplish those things because we're listening to people, not PACs, people, not corporations, people, not special interests. So, Susie, thanks for the question.
So you're getting a lot of compliments on your haircut.
I'll take this hat off.
A lot of folks say they like it. And then Peggy is saying that for her birthday, she's going to ask her friends to donate, and she's going to double whatever they donate.
So this is now feeling very much like a KTEP pledge drive. Peggy is saying that for her birthday, she's donating to the campaign. First of all, happy birthday, Peggy. thank you for making the donation. And then she says that she will,
So whatever her friends donate, she's going to double that.
whatever her friends donate, she's going to double that up to, by law, the allowable limit. So let's see if we can get Peggy up to $2,800 by all of Peggy's friends making a donation right now at BetoO'Rourke.com. So Peggy, thank you for that. And that's really sweet of you.
So Kat says, please talk on your veteran record more. People want to know a little bit more about what you've done with veterans.
Kat, thank you for the question. I served for 6 years on the House Veterans Affairs Committee. It's a committee I asked to serve on, one that not a lot of my colleagues want to serve on because of the last question we were asked. That was about PAC money and contributions and how you fund your re-election and pay your dues to your party. Both Democrats and Republicans do this. And the Veterans Affairs Committee, for that reason, is the last place you want to be because there are no corporations, no special interests, no PACs involved, but perhaps the most important constituency in this country. Men and women who have put their lives on the line for America. We're willing to sacrifice them for the rest of us and this country, and who, upon returning from war and battle and service, are frequently unable to get into a VA, see a therapist to treat their post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury, are, in other words, not able to get the help that they've earned and that I think we all want to provide. And so on that committee, we focused on making sure that we reduce suicide. And in fact, we were able to get that made the #1 clinical priority for the VA. We know that of the 20 to 22 veterans a day, every day, who take their own lives, the majority of them were unable or unwilling to get to the VA. It may have something to do with the long wait times or the fact that we have 40,000 vacant clinical positions at the VA today. And in fact, El Paso had the worst mental health care wait times for a veteran in the United States of America. So we made fixing that a priority. We hired up the psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists in El Paso that we had been missing, opened up more appointments for more veterans, and in the process saved more lives. Worked with Republican colleagues and Democrats alike to pass legislation that expands mental health care access nationally for veterans, including those who have an other than honorable discharge, which used to preclude you from even setting foot in the VA. We're able to get that signed into law. Again, opening up more appointments, more care, I think in the end saving more lives, especially knowing that those veterans who have an OTH discharge were taking their lives at twice the rate of the general veterans population. So an urgent crisis, one that for whatever reason has not become a priority for many lawmakers, perhaps because they were unaware that this was a crisis in the first place, but by working with our colleagues, by being persistent, by ensuring that we are following the lead of veterans and their family members and these great veteran service organizations like Vietnam Veterans of America, who actually led the way on this from the VSO community, we were able to get that done. We're not there yet. We still have a problem, we still have a crisis in this, but I think that shows us a path forward to addressing this when we treat it like the priority that it is. So, Kat, appreciate you asking the question. There are a number of other aspects of veterans policy, from housing to the post 9/11 GI Bill, to the very fact that we're at war all over the world right now, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Syria, in Somalia, in Libya, just to name a half a dozen places. We need to end those wars, or we need to make sure that when we go to war, we have a definition of victory, an understanding of what the strategy is, and a realization amongst all of us that that burden will be borne by fewer than 1% of our fellow Americans. That's the percentage of Americans who served since 9/11, and we are not doing that in this country at this point. So, thank you, Kat.
One more thing, Celeste is her
Yeah, we'll take a
birthday.
couple more, and then we're going to enjoy the ride.
It's her birthday today, Celeste.
Celeste. Feliz cumpleaños. Are you going to sing for Celeste? Or?
If you want me to, I can do
Yeah,
it.
so Cynthia's going to sing a cappella to Celeste.
No, I wouldn't subject you to that. Just want to wish you a very, very happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Celeste.
So you talked a little bit about Ulysses, gave an update. How about Molly and Henry and Amy? What an update on them?
Yeah, so quick update on the family. Molly rescued two very young kittens who were living in a bush outside of my mom's house. Brought them home last weekend and is nursing them back to health. For the first day or two, they were not eating or drinking. They were probably freaked out. Had been abandoned. Now we're in a strange home. But Molly, who is relentless and fearless, and she's got all of the scratches all over her arms and her face to prove it. Love those kittens back to health. They're now eating. We are allegedly fostering them. Decent. But I would not be surprised if they ended up finding a permanent home in our house. Though I know, Amy, you and I are on the same page. We will not allow that to happen. Molly, that's not permission for you to do that. But they are awfully cute. But at some point, I think we will post a picture. And if you would love to have a beautiful kitten or two in your home, we'll get in touch. Molly's doing good in school. Is playing for a volleyball team, and it's just amazing. Amy sent me a video of her the other night, and she used to have a problem with her serve, and she was just landing these serves like nobody's business. So super proud of her. Henry is doing great in 3rd grade. He didn't know a lot of people in his class when the school year started, but has made friends, and then also has friends who are in other classes and other grades that he gets to see. So he seems happy at school. He is playing for a basketball team, and I've been able to go to some of his games, and he's really good. And I think he's really good in large part because he's had the chance to watch and learn from his brother, as well as his sister Molly, who also plays basketball and is gifted as an athlete. So all 3 kids are doing really well, and very, very lucky to be their papa, and excited to see them again before long.
Somebody says Molly needs a 501c3 for all the animals that she rescued.
Yeah.
That would be.
So on top of these 2 kittens, she has a bearded dragon, a ball python, fish, 2 turtles. 1 turtle, I think, was eaten by a bird. Or yeah.
Because they're tiny, right?
They're little turtles, and we had a great. Anyhow, long story. I'm not going to go into it. But we're down from 3 to 2 turtles, a cat named Silver in addition to these 2 kittens, a dog named Artemis. There may have been some other animals that I left out, but we've got a zoo at the house, and that is definitely a calling for Molly.
Yeah. Just a lot of people continue, and I know, sorry, we've talked about this a lot, but about donating. They just keep doing it, so thank you. Like on and on, people are donating. So just
Abe, do you want to show the road down that middle aisle?
Oh, this is a good question, but so Jenny is saying, do you think that you'll get a chance to meet Greta and speak to her about the climate plan?
Yeah, so you may have seen this video of Greta, who I believe is from Sweden. And I think the first video I saw of her, she was 12 or 13, 14 years old. And it's a TED Talk, and she is as eloquent as I've heard on the challenge of climate change and the need to meet it with the urgency that challenge demands. And there's something about the fact that she is so young, that English is not her first language, that she's so focused on this issue and is so powerfully eloquent. It's arresting. You cannot help but watch the whole video and then try to find other videos of her as I have. She recently sailed to the United States, across the Atlantic, I believe, to speak at the UN. I may have these facts half right. And did so on like a low carbon or no carbon vessel. And I think it's just been able to articulate in really powerful, clear terms the consequences of our inaction and the choices that we've made leading up to this moment, and then this last moment measured in 10 years to get this right. And so yes, I've seen the videos of Greta. Would love to meet her. at some point, and really just to thank her in person for what she's doing. I think she's capturing the attention and helping to engage the conscience of so many people across the world, and that is certainly what we need at this moment.
Vincent is saying,
Vincent,
what was the name of the book you spoke about last night regarding climate change?
Unlivable Earth? Uninhabitable Earth, yes. Is it David Wallace? Well,
Do you have it in Google? I don't know.
Yeah. Anyhow, Uninhabitable Earth, which I read at the beginning of this year, and it is one of the toughest reads because it's so clearly and starkly, really almost depressingly lays out the consequences for our kids and grandkids based on the trajectory that we're on. If we change nothing, and we haven't done a good job of changing much as a planet, certainly not enough in the United States.
Is that right?
David Wallace Wells, yeah, the Uninhabitable Earth. Then by the year 2100, we will have not only exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial revolution levels, we'll be at 4.5 degrees Celsius. The competition for resources, the level of outmigration and refugee flows, it won't be tens of millions, it may very well be billions of people who are affected and who are moving, who will no longer be able to stay where they are today, in their homes, in their communities, or even in their home countries. And it is really hellish. But on the bright side, if there is one, the book can really be a spur to act. It can make it clear what the consequences are of our choices and force us to make different choices than the ones that we've made so far. So that's the book that I was talking about last night, The Uninhabitable Earth, and it really changed how I look at this issue and the urgency with which I respond to this challenge. And it's one of the reasons that our plan to confront climate change was the first plan that we released as a candidate for president.
Last question before
Last
we
question.
sign off.
This is it. Nope,
Do you
no pressure.
listen to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones on the road?
Do I listen to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones on the road? Do you want to talk about the Beatles? Do you want me to talk about this, or do you?
I'd rather you not share that with them, but
Can I, or no?
well, you already kind of did, so I guess
If you'd really rather, I won't.
I'd rather you did.
Okay.
Because then people don't like.
Yes,
Yeah.
we I'll put it this way: we have different musical tastes on the bus, but yes, we listen to a fair amount of the Beatles, which was a first love for me, and the Rolling Stones, which I came to appreciate later in life when I was a little bit older, and really just a ton of good music. I'm on this Joe Strummer Spotify channel, and that's turning me on to some bands and musicians that I had not heard before. My friend Mike Stevens in Springfield, Missouri, is constantly sending us playlists based on the states through which we travel, finding state-appropriate music. Always like to have Willie Nelson on whenever we can, Home State Hero, and just a real mix of music. But at the foundation, certainly the Beatles and a lot of Stones. So, it's a good question.
Yeah.
No music on this bus, though. I think that's because there are so many people who may not want to have music going on.
There's a lot of
There's a lot of earbuds, though. A lot of earbuds.
Everybody's doing their own thing.
I left my earbuds in El Paso, so.
Amy sent them. She texted and she sent them.
Oh,
I'm on
cool.
the code for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Boston, looking forward to seeing you in a couple of hours. New Hampshire, we'll see you mañana. And then back to Texas before the end of the weekend. And thanks to everyone who joined us on the live stream, everyone that we had a chance to meet on the bus, everyone who's pitched in at BetoO'Rourke.com. We are very grateful and very much looking forward to seeing you out on the trail. Gracias y adiós.